Okay, good. I'm now on Instagram and YouTube. I'll be on YouTube for the whole hour. Instagram, I'll do 30 minutes, and then I'll move over to TikTok for 30 minutes. So, hello. This is not my regularly scheduled live. I just pop in often. I never know when. I've got some time right now. Actually, I've got something in front of me I don't want to work on. So it's all the back end stuff I hate. Anyway, so I thought perfect timing. Come and do a live. Okay, my name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on the link above, you can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, 3 to 12 years old, or you can hire me for coaching. That's all on the link above. Okay, you need help with your toddler sleeping. It's a whole process. I have a bedtime battles course if you're interested. That's in the link above. It's a whole process. It's actually in 2 parts, how you get them to bed and then how you keep them in bed. And some people have problems with both. Some people just have problems with one or the other. Okay. No, I don't bring people into my live. I did it once about a year and a half ago. I first started doing lives, and they asked a parenting question. I said, well, that's a really good question. I said, why don't you come in? They actually requested, can you come in? Can they come in? I let them in, and then they started talking about their business. They were just using all my audience. So I have 500,000 people on TikTok, and they just were after my audience. I was so shocked at that. So yeah, ever since then, I've never let anyone know my lives. So I said sorry and got rid of them right away. Toilet training 2.5-year-old boy, please. That's the perfect age. Actually, I have a potty training course on that. As you can imagine, it's a whole process. I call it the potty party, and it literally is a party. You just with you and your kid. And but yeah, check it out. It's all detailed. It's a whole system how you set it up. And I recommend 2.5 years old for potty training. It can be younger, it can be older, but around 2.5. Okay, toilet training a 3-year-old that won't poop on the toilet. The potty party, if they're already peeing on the toilet, the potty party actually goes through why they won't poop on the toilet. But if that's the only problem, there's 2 reasons. Usually there's 2 reasons why they won't poop on the toilet. One of them is splashback. They might have been splashed when they did it once. The other one is hang phobia. They don't like the feeling of it pulling when it's hanging there. So what you do is you get one of those little porta potties and you just stuff it full of toilet paper so they don't get the hang. They feel like the toilet paper up against their bum. They feel more secure, and they're not going to get any splashback. Give it a go. If they've already had a bad experience with pooping outside of a diaper, it's going to be harder. So, but anyway, that's just my general. There's lots of other ideas I've got, but that's just what I have found to be the 2 most common reasons why they won't poop on the toilet. Does that make sense? By the way, this is Instagram, and I'm quite new on Instagram. And I realized I was talking to someone that I work with earlier, and this person said to me, in your lives, you keep talking about all the videos you're posting. All my videos go up. I am the only one that does TikTok. I have someone else who does Instagram and Facebook and YouTube for me. And all the videos aren't necessarily the same. Like they post different days. So if I say I just did a video, it'll be on TikTok. So that's the only platform I touch other than lives. So it's all my stuff, obviously, but they just pull what they want from different, from all my TikTok. That's where I put everything. And then they just pull it all off there. So anyway, but yeah, they pointed that out this morning. They said, yeah, you keep talking about on Instagram about all these videos you just did. I haven't put them on Instagram. So I'm like, oops, I didn't know that. Now I know. What age do children understand that people have feelings? You mean other people have feelings? Even themselves, really. They clue into this at about 3 years old and 9 months. So 3 3/4. I have always said that. For the last 50 years, I've been saying it's 3 years and 9 months. Now, I read recently, a couple of years ago, the professionals are now saying it's 3 years and 9 months. They used to say 5 years. They used to say 2 or 3, I think, but it's 3 and 9 months is when I really notice a big shift. Not exactly that, but very close with all kids. Doesn't mean they're going to have empathy, but they have the ability to have empathy. They start to look around and think, oh, other people have feelings too. Other people are kind of like me. I'm not the only one in the world. You can just see it. So it's around then. Doesn't mean that they're going to act on it and be empathetic. Don't they understand the people's feeling? They might understand it, but they might not give a crap. Okay. So. How to approach toddler constantly refusing dinner. Yeah, that's mealtime battles. I will have a course coming out hopefully before the new year, and it'll be mealtime battles. It'll go into great detail, all the different things that I recommend. But Yeah, I've got so many different things I could talk about with mealtime battles. Let me think here. Do I want to get into it? I can just feel it. I got too much that I want to talk about. Yeah, I just got to whittle it down to something. Okay, I'll just tell you what I did with my kids. There was no mealtime battles because I never pushed food on them, but they knew there was no ice cream waiting for them. If they even eat a few bites of something, they only knew they were going to get healthy food at our home. So, because I'm a health food nut, so all they had was this healthy food or that healthy food. They just learned to eat kind of healthy. And also, I was brilliant I hate cooking, but I was really good at hiding healthy stuff. Like, I remember the first time my son ever had pizza out in the world, and he said, "It was really weird, Mommy. The sauce was red." That's because they're not pureeing spinach and putting it in their homemade sauce like I used to do. So I was hiding really nutritious stuff and all the stuff they like. All the popsicles were full of all the vegetables, and yeah, I was very good at hiding healthy stuff. Does ADHD or autism change your approach? Okay, ADHD, that's where I learned all this. Those are the kids that taught me all this. Not my own kids didn't have it, but I worked with hundreds of kids. They were always alphabet kids. They always had something after the name. Autism's different. I only discuss that in coaching. They do often have, it's just different. It's more of a specialty. So I only work with autism in one-on-one coaching if you want to work with me. Okay. Thank you. I'll give it a go. What, the pureeing? Yeah, I was really good at that. What else did I used to do? Oh, all my cookies and muffins and cakes. I made everything from scratch too. All the bread. It tasted different from everyone else's cookies. My kids couldn't quite figure it out. And then the funny thing is when they go to birthday parties, they'd always come home with a stomach ache because they'd eaten all that sugar. I used to say when they go out, have at it, eat whatever you want when you're out. But they always came home with stomach aches because they weren't used to all that junk, right? So it was funny. And my daughter now, she doesn't use it right now, but she has a holistic nutritionist degree, and we both work out every day. You know, they're not listening to you, but they're watching you. What you do with them when they're growing up, they tend to just have that in their DNA. My son's, he also goes to the gym a lot. He works out a lot. He's not as into nutrition as my daughter and I, but yeah, they grew up with all that. So it's just part of, to them, that seems normal. My 3-year-old wants to be fed rather than eating by himself. Any suggestions, please? Just get real slow, okay? If you've got a spoon, just go, be talking to someone and go, scoop out their food and go, yeah, oh, right, yeah, I remember that. And then they want to be, so just go real slow. I've done that with kids. Next thing you know, they're grabbing the spoon, feeding themselves. But look distracted. Don't go like this. It's not like that. It's just, oh, right. Oh, I remember that, you know. And they're, yeah, slow it down. I got a 2-year-old smacking. I've got a course on that. I got tons of mini toddler courses. Check them out. There's one on tantrums. There's one on potty training. There's one on toddlers who hit. And there's one on bedtime battles. Those are the 4 I've got right now. It just goes into great detail. And I get a lot of the same questions on here, so I don't want to keep repeating myself. I'm always kind of looking for a new question. I don't even have kids, but I love watching your videos. You know, it's just common sense life stuff, isn't it? I don't know what I should call my tagline. I don't know what I don't have a tagline. I'm not that clever. But I think like no nonsense parenting, or it's just common sense. I've been working with kids for 50 plus years, and I just figured them out. And I meet their needs and manage their wants. That's all. But you lead with fun. You want to have fun with your kids. Okay. If I want to start this type of parenting from the start, is there a general course? I obviously don't have specific issues yet, but would like to learn preventatively. Oh, I said that actually. I said it correctly. Wouldn't that be funny if I said correctly wrong? Anyway, but no, I don't have a toddler course or a start here course. That's a very good idea. Start here but then I'd have to have everything in there. I do have a big course. I teach leadership, and you're at the height of your leadership from 3 to 12 years old. That's when they want to please you. That's when they need a leader the most. When they're little toddlers, they're just out to lunch, right? I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. I don't even know if it'd be worth writing a book on this because they're just out to lunch. They haven't formed yet. They're just forming. Just a second. It's taking a second here. Okay, my top 5 tips for, I don't know why I have to read it, but anyway. Every so often I get a glitch and I forget. Okay, Number one is childproof your home so you never have to say no. Number two is get a toy rotation system in place so they're never bored. Number three is to bond with your toddler. You enter their world. You don't take them to the nail salon. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. Number four is when you discipline them, you enter their world. They're all about consistent corrective actions. They're not about words. So all these mini therapy sessions these days discussing self-regulations, big feelings, big emotions, it's garbage. They're all about actions. They're not about words. Number five is stop trying to figure them out. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're just forming, okay? It's not even so much that they're crazy. It's just they haven't formed sanity yet. So yeah, just wait it out. Toddlers, they're cute as a button, but they're all feet, no brains. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years and for one of those years you were a potato laying on a mattress. Think about that for a second. They have no context to the world. This might be completely normal, smearing poop on the wall, right? They're just toddlers. They're just learning about the world. So yeah, that's my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Babies, just give them whatever they want, whenever they want. I'm very into picking up babies when they cry. Someone said to me once, gee, you're always picking up babies when they cry. I say, yeah. And then they say, but you're going to spoil them. I'm like, oh, shut up. Like I didn't say that, but it wasn't even my kid. I just said, I didn't say anything actually, but I was thinking, shut up. How do you spoil a baby with love? How do you do that? Is that the stupidest thing? Don't spoil them. Don't pick them up. How can you spoil a baby with love? Stupid. Very opinionated. What do you do when you ask your 4-year-old to do something and they argue with you about it? That's learned behavior. You've trained them to do that. They wouldn't do that if you were a leader. Set up your leadership skills. There's no way they would argue with you. It just doesn't happen. So look at my course, my big boot camp course. It teaches you how to be a leader. And they just don't argue with you. They don't argue with a leader. Remember, we're never fixing kids. We're fixing and teaching parents. You want to learn how to be a leader? I can't tell you that in a quick live. You have to go through it. It takes 5 weeks. It's a whole course, week by week, different things you have to do each week, teaching you how to be a leader. So you lead, they will follow. Yeah, that you've taught your child how to do that. It's just the way it is. Like if I'd said, oh, by the way, bring your dishes to the sink, and they'd argued with me, I literally would have done this. What? I would have been so confused. Why would they argue with me? Like it just wouldn't even make any sense because I was a leader. They don't argue with leaders. I wouldn't be angry. I'd just be, what? And it just wouldn't have happened. So work on your leadership skills and everything falls into place. Everything falls into place. Everyone wants me to help them fix their kids. I don't do that. It's you I'm after. You're the one I want to fix. You're the one I want to teach. You're the one I want to set up as a leader so that your children will respect you. You give respect to get it. That's what a leader does. You're not commanding them, your children. You don't want obedient little soldiers. You want children with high self-esteem that look up to you like a mentor and they want to please you from the ages of 3 to 12. After that, things shift and change. You don't want teenagers to want to please their parents all the time. You want them to learn some independence. You want them to please themselves and just not disappoint you. There's a difference. It goes down a notch. But by that time, if you've been a good leader, they're going to make good decisions anyway, so there's no problem. 3-year-olds terrified of people. Any suggestions? I don't know why. I would just get them out more, throw them into the lion's pit. Like my daughter was very shy with people. So I took her out as many places as possible and I dumped her off. And I used to work in gyms teaching aerobics back in the aerobics days. Back when there was aerobics, it was great. Anyway, so much fun. I won't go into it, but all those outfits, yeah, I wore all that silly stuff. Anyway, so yeah, I would just put her into the daycare. I worked all over the city and I would just put her in daycare everywhere I went and she just got used to it. It's exposure. I never coddled it. But I did tend to work in gyms where there was a window and she could see me up on the stage. So I did kind of do that. But I never catered to her fear. She knew that. 3-year-old scared of the dark. I actually have it on my list. What did I write down? I have a list of videos I'm going to be doing. And one of them, I think, was that. Yeah, my 3-year-old is scared at night, already has a night light. So yeah, I'm going to be doing a video on that, and all my videos go onto TikTok, and then I have someone working for me, and then they pull the ones that they want off of TikTok. So I don't know when that's going to end up on Instagram. or Facebook or YouTube. I have no idea. But I do all my videos I put on TikTok, but I don't control Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. Someone else does that. So, but it will be coming out on TikTok. And so I would have to assess exactly why they're afraid of the dark too. And when did it start and what do you do and all that. 4-year-old son has autism. Autism is, I only discuss that in coaching. That's a specialty, and it's only during coaching one-on-one. Check the link above if you want me to work with you on that. But yeah, that's more of a, they're all different, right? So how do I handle my 4-year-old son that wants to be like others but himself? So in other words, he's a follower. I'd love him to be confident. Okay, I'll just tell you briefly. When a child has a leader as a parent, it's their basic nature to have a lot of, I always knew who I was. I was always pretty confident. Mom said you were just born that, my mom used to say you're just born that way. So some of it is nature, but also what you can do for them is you set yourself up as a leader. They can tell you anything, and they're much more inclined to have confidence when they have a leader as a parent, because leaders bring out the best in them. Leaders teach them how to make decisions and problem solve, because you're not telling them what to do hardly ever. You want them to figure stuff out on their own. You're just guiding them along to make good decisions. So that tends to bring out their confidence. My daughter and I were just talking about that this morning. She was the easiest kid in the whole world, never cried, never tantrum, just the sweetest little thing. I could have done everything wrong. She still would have turned out great. What I did give her was confidence, though. We both agreed she would have been very withdrawn and shy if I wasn't pushing her into things. And I was very much a leader. So I made her, she's very loud, very confident, she knows who she is. And I gave her that. But her basic nature, she was actually quite shy. So yeah, but set yourself up as a leader. They're not going to be vulnerable when they go out there in the world. They're going to know who they are, because you're going to bring that out in them. Okay, leadership is everything. Everything falls into place when you're a leader. And then people say, how do you be a leader? I have a whole course on that, or just keep watching. You'll start getting it just by watching. The behavior board's completely free. You can start there if they're 3 years old and over. But yeah, if you're not a leader, they're going to be very vulnerable out there in the world. They're going to be susceptible to peer pressure, bullying, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're going to go searching leadership somewhere else. They're going to be very impressionable if they don't have a leader at home. So you set yourself up as a leader. You're a safe place to land, and it gives them confidence. Well, so you got a 2-year-old daughter, she's almost 3, yells no when I say no. So why are you using words? I would say no, then take action. So she goes to touch something, no, and then go over and take it from her. It's consistent corrective actions. It's not words with toddlers. She's just parroting you. Because you're putting up with it. Like, I could care less if they say no. I'm taking action. I would say no, and then I would take that and put it away. That would be the end of it. They can say no as much as they want. I take action. That toddlers learn through consistent corrective actions. They don't need the mini therapy sessions discussing all their big feelings, discussing all their emotions, all their actions. That's all garbage. They are about consistent corrective actions. Whoops, why did this go off here? Oh, I do 15,000 steps minimum every day, and an alarm goes up. I'm just sitting here. How did I get to 15,000 steps? I'm just sitting here. Isn't that crazy? Okay, I talk with my hands. Okay. Oh, I don't bring people into my lives. The only time I ever did it was about 1.5 years ago, and they came in and started talking about their business. They used my audience, you guys are gold to me. I'm not going to give you to someone else. And they used my audience to try and sell their stuff. They talked about their business. I couldn't believe it. I said, you're out of here. Bang, I got rid of them. Never let anyone else in again, ever. I was just disgusted by that. Could imagine doing that. Anyway, whatever. You should see the stuff that comes at me. Okay. That wasn't on Instagram. That was on TikTok. I've got a big following over there. And, but yeah, they wanted that follow. They wanted my audience. I'm just surprised, I guess, because I just don't do stuff like that. I'm always surprised that people do stuff like that. Like, I'd be embarrassed. I'd be embarrassed to talk about my business when you're doing that. Who's going to buy off someone who's that pushy? Anyway. Whatever. something that I want to drive home, and I want to talk about it more often. And I went off on a big rant about this last night. And then I had to go over to TikTok and I continued the rant over there. Anyway, I talk about discipline all the time, constantly, because that's what people ask me. You'll find if you ever hire me for coaching, or if you get that boot camp course, it's not about discipline. It's about connecting and bonding with your kids. The discipline is this much of parenting. This much of parenting is connecting with them, bonding with them, building them up, making them like themselves, bringing the best out in them, guiding them into making good choices. The discipline is that much of parenting. It's tiny. And once you're a really good leader, discipline is it never comes up. I really don't remember ever disciplining my kids. It was very rare that I passed the age of 3.5 to 4. They were just said, "Hi, Australia." You know, I'm Australian too, right? That's where my kids were born and raised, was in Australia. Anyway, parenting is 99.9% bonding with your children. Being like a mentor, a friend, a mentor, like a really good sports coach, someone that you look up to, who's fun, who likes you, wants to be with you, guides you into making good choices and brings the best out in you. But if you cheat in the game, you're sitting on the bench for an inning. They correct you when you make a bad choice, right? But then when you get off the bench, you go, "Okay, come on, you can do it." You're like a cheerleader for your children. Treat discipline like, "Yeah, that was stupid. Okay, here's the consequence. Now I want to go to the park." You're always focused on the good kid. You deal with bad behavior, but you focus on the good kid. Some parents say there is no good kid in there. And I say, you got to dig for it. Like I used to do when I mentored troubled teenagers. I had to dig for the good stuff to bond with. Believe me, it was like mining gold, I'll tell you. It was difficult, but that's what I did. I bonded with the troubled teens by focusing on the good. The negative, I had a way of dealing with it, but it was very short but sweet kind of thing. But yeah, focus on the good. Focus on the good kid. Bring out the good. But where you put your energy, where you put your focus is what grows. If you're only focusing on the discipline, that will grow. The bad behavior will grow too. If you're always focused on what they're doing bad and trying to correct it, they're going to be bad all the time because it's going to start to become their identity. Really important. Does that make sense? Does that resonate? Don't know why I'm always talking with my hands. Anyway. Okay. Yeah, I don't know about this. So you put your 1.5-year-old in her crib when she's throwing a tantrum and won't calm down. So then she calms down immediately when in her bed. If it's working, then do it. You know, I'm never going to argue with something that's working. So it's kind of like timeout. But if she finds that a soothing place to be, I'm assuming to her, if she calms down in there, she must like it in there. So timeout is usually somewhere they don't want to be. So yeah, maybe she finds it very soothing, very comforting. She might have a blankie she likes. So maybe that's it's not a bad way to do it. It's not what I teach, but yeah, if it's working. Plus, that's only 1.5. I say they were not really toddlers till they're 16 months, so that she's still really little. I was just going to read out my 4 stages of parenting. And this isn't about the kids. It's about their ages, but it's about you as a parent. This is how you become a different parent with each of the 4 ages. 1 is baby, 0 to 15 months. Just kind of cater to them, love them up all the time. It's all cuddling and all that stuff and playing with them. Then you go into the toddler age, which is 16 to 35 months. Now you're starting to use more consistent corrective actions to teach them, guide them away from the bad stuff, correct them, have consequences when they do something bad, but it's right in the moment. Then you go into the child era. That's when they're 3 to 12 years old. You're at the height of your leadership. That is when you are completely their leader and they will try and please you. That's the way it is. Then you go into the teen years, and that is you're pulling back from the leadership. This is when they're starting to exercise their independence, and you have to know how to go with that. That's 13 plus. There's nothing wrong with teenagers. They're actually very easy to parent. It's the fact that parents don't change their parenting style to adjust to the teen years. So yeah, once you get good at it, once you know how to parent a teenager, they're my favorite age. My son was 15, and he says, "You've been a really difficult mom," because I could never rebel, because he probably wanted to be honest. And he said, "Because I could never rebel. You're too reasonable and easy to talk to." And I'm like, "You're welcome." I gave him nothing to rebel against. And he respected me, so he wouldn't have done anything that would have disappointed me, you know. But he always used to say I could never get in trouble because you were always sitting on my shoulder. And I said, "No, sweetie, that's your conscience." "You're welcome." But yeah, work on your leadership skills and then let go of some of that in the teen years. I won't bother reading it out right now, but there's my top tips for teens too. Okay, your advice about consistent corrective actions works on my 20-month-old, but she still hits our cat. She'll be gentle with it for a while, but whack after that. She's still learning. I'm very protective of animals. I'm extremely protective. I would keep that cat away from the toddler if possible and just intervene constantly. And, it does work eventually, but when I say consistent corrective actions, I don't mean over a period of an afternoon. I mean probably 1 or 2 weeks, maybe even a month it's going to take them to learn. So, but yeah, you do that enough knee-jerk reactions, they'll eventually just stop doing it. But you got to it's work. It is hard work. 4-year-old boy never wants my help, always wants to do everything on his own. Is this okay? If it's stuff he can do on his own, if he wants to drive the car, then no. But if it's stuff he can do on his own, what difference does it make? If it's stuff he can do on his own. Consequences for a 3-year-old, you can check out the behavior board. That's completely free. You just have to sign up. Give it 10 minutes. It takes about 10 minutes to come in. Do you know how many emails I get? I didn't get the behavior board. I signed up. And then, oops, it just came in. It takes a few minutes. It's on a platform called Podia. That's where all my courses are. And because it's like a third-party delivery system, it takes about it can take 5 or 10 minutes. I just ignore all those emails now because I know they're going to go, oops, never mind. But yeah, so sign up for the behavior board. It's completely free, and then wait 10 minutes. And if you haven't got it by then you can let me know. But yeah, it has consequences and things you can do. Teaches you how to do that. I also have a video. Someone said, and I know I have it on the behavior board, you can never put attitude like yelling or screaming. It's ridiculous. You can't put the rule for the child, no yelling. That's like, it's too big of an ask. It's too broad. And they might be yelling because you're a difficult parent. Maybe you're yelling at them. So, you can't put attitude on there. It has to be an action. And then the consequence is, you'll see that. There's always 2 consequences for the kids. The first one is a positive action. If they won't do that, then you do the negative deprivation. Okay, you wouldn't empty the dishwasher, so now media blackout for 24 hours and then make it happen. As soon as you've said it, it has to happen. Fine, I'll do the dishwasher. And they might even run and do it. Say, that's nice. Can I watch TV? No, you're in 24-hour media blackout. Not fair, not fair. Oh, well, you'll know next time, won't you? Like you gotta follow through with this stuff. And then when they've got media blackout, you do it with them. And that's your opportunity to bond with them. You got no screens. You're not going to have them in a media blackout and you're sitting there looking at your phone. Oh, this is great. Do it with them and say, do you want to play a game? No, I hate you. I hate you. Okay, fine. As soon as they calm down, ready for that game now? So you're always trying to connect with them. That's your job. You want to connect with your kids as a leader. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff about toddlers adjusting to babies. It's just difficult. There's not much I can tell you. How can they possibly understand how this new human being is coming in and taking their mommy and daddy away from them? It would be, imagine if your husband brought home a new wife. Wouldn't you kind of have a little bit of an adjustment period? You see, it's like that. So don't expect too much. It's just going to take time. I'm not saying it's just going to take time for another wife to come in. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's difficult. Why on earth should they have to share their mommy and daddy? They never did before. Often, if there's 3 kids in the family now, the older 2, the younger one might have a problem with it, but the older one won't have a problem with the new baby because they've already gone through that. They already understand. Well, you say your toddler might be on the spectrum. If that's potential, I can't discuss that. I only discuss autism in coaching. That's more of a specialty, and I can't generalize with autism because each child has their own special needs and that. So yeah, I can't discuss it. But if he's running away, get a leash, get a harness. I always say that. If you got a runner, get a harness. As soon as they start to run, say no, and you clip them in, bang. For the rest of that outing, keep them clipped in. And then, yeah, they're going to have a fit. And then parents always say, yeah, but then they're going to have a tantrum. So that's part of it. Their process is having a fit when you finally take control. Don't interrupt that process. Allow it to happen. That's really important. Like parents say, well, I don't really want to do that because I know he's going to scream and kick. And so that's his process. He's learning, wait a minute, I'm not in charge. You are. It's okay that it's going to get worse before it gets better. Everyone's afraid of the storm, but they all want the rainbow. I want the rainbow, Lisa. Give me that. No, you got to go through the storm. You got to be willing to go through that storm. The fits, the scenes, the tantrums, those are all the storm. Embrace it. Whenever a kid, I remember once, I know I've told this story a million times, but this kid, I can't remember the situation, was working with this kid, and I wouldn't give in to something he wanted. He wasn't supposed to have it. And he said to me, if you don't give that to me, I'm going to have a fit. And I said to him, bring it on. He was about 8. I said, bring it on. And he didn't do anything. It's like, you think you can threaten me with a fit? You know how many fits and scenes and tantrums I've lived through with kids? That's my opportunity to exercise my leadership. Yeah, he looked shocked when I said that too. Like, I have no fear of you, you know. Okay, I'm going to get going now. I've done my 30 minutes here on Instagram. I'm going to move over to TikTok now. If you check out the link above, you can download my free behavior board, buy one of my mini toddler courses or my big course, 3 to 12 years old, or hire me for coaching. If you want to go and join me on TikTok, it's Bratbusters Parenting over there. Thanks very much for joining me. And I am staying on YouTube. Sugar. And done. Okay. I do the whole hour on YouTube. I just do 30 minutes on Instagram and then 30 minutes on TikTok. Just waiting for people. Hello. Just waiting for people to turn up. You might have come over from Instagram. I just finished on there. I wonder if I should go back. I wonder if I should do it the other way sometimes too. Do TikTok. I tend to do Instagram and then TikTok because I do this so often. I get mixed up. I forget. So which one I did first? So I do Instagram because alphabetically I comes before T. That's why I do it that way. But yeah, I might mix it up and do it the other way sometimes. But my regularly scheduled lives are Tuesday and Thursday nights, 5 o'clock on Instagram and 5:30 on TikTok. Every Tuesday and Thursday night. Now that is Pacific time. Hi, B. Thanks. You're very welcome. I love what I do. I love what I do. I get the most beautiful messages and emails every single day. It's just really rewarding to help people when you're in that line of work. It's very rewarding. I feel very fortunate. Because I was doing a lot. I was volunteering with kids for decades. And then to be able to turn that caring thing into a business that you can do all day, like, you know, it's amazing. But I put in a lot of decades of free volunteer work to get my skills going where they are. Tell you, I've paid my dues. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. If you go on the link above, you'll download my free behavior board, buy one of my mini toddler courses, or buy my big course, the bootcamp one for 3 to 12 years old, or you can hire me for coaching. That's all in the link above. And okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. Okay, you're struggling with your 18-month-old, but with what? I know you were on Instagram, but what are you struggling with? You're in the mess. You're in the firestorm right now. You got a little one and a baby. You got a toddler and a baby. I can't really help you with that. You know why? Because it's physical. It's like you got to be in 2 places at once, and you want my help with that? I don't know what to say. It's just difficult. It just is. It's very physically demanding, but it's temporary. Okay. That is one of my most difficult coaching challenges. Because you got a mom with a new baby who's stuck on her boob when she's feeding, and you got a toddler running right around the house. What am I supposed to tell her? You know, like your hands are kind of tied. Your boob is tied. Like there's only so much you can do. Yeah, it's physical. It's physically demanding. I will give you my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers, though. It might help a little bit because some parents say, as soon as I'm feeding that baby, they get into everything. Well, my kids couldn't have done that because my house was childproofed. That's one of the simplest, easiest things you can do is childproof your home so that they can't get into anything. You never have to say no. So if you've got a toddler that's, as soon as you got that baby attached to your boob, they go run right around the house, make sure it's childproof. There's nothing my kids could have got into. There was nothing from the waist down that they couldn't have got into. Everything looked ridiculous. All my plants were up high. Even my curtains, when they went through the curtain stage, I even wrapped those around the rods. So I just was my choice. That was what I did. So I'll read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1 is childproof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Maybe get out the new box of toys that 18-month-old hadn't seen for a while. When you're breastfeeding, pull out the breastfeeding toy box. Then number 3 is you want to connect with a toddler in their world. You don't connect with a 2-year-old at the nail salon. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. Then when you're disciplining a toddler, again, you do it in their world. You respect their world. They're not about words. They're not about these mini therapy sessions that are so trendy right now, discussing big feelings and big emotions. It's just ridiculous. They're about consistent corrective actions. They learn through actions. And number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're all feet, no brains, cute as a button, but they're just a lot of work physically. Yeah, when they're hitting themselves, yeah, they're going to do that. You just physically restrain them. Just say no and just hold them until they've calmed down. Then let go. If they start hitting themselves again, just hold them again. You're not looking at them or talking to them, though. That's the important part. There's no point. There's 0 point. Any attention during those fits, scenes, tantrums is feeding it. It will just go on longer and longer and longer. You will increase the duration, the intensity, and the frequency of tantrums if you give it attention. It's feeding it. It's like fertilizing it. Should I tell the swing story? That's my best tantrum story. I just did a video on it. I did a couple videos on that. I keep talking about the videos I just did, but and then I realized I was talking to someone this morning who does my Instagram, my Facebook, and my YouTube. I don't do any of those. I only do TikTok. And they said, you keep promising on the lives that you just did a video. And they said, if you're on Instagram and on YouTube, they're like, no, you didn't. Because they don't necessarily, they pick what they want for those other platforms. So when I say I just did a video on that, it's just TikTok is where I've put all my videos. That's the only one I control. It's the only one I do. I have someone else controlling everything else. So yeah, they pick and choose which videos. They're better at picking and choosing which ones to put out and mix them up nicely. I don't think about anything. I just throw everything on TikTok when I feel like it. So there's no planning that goes into this on my part. That's why I have someone else doing it. The other platforms. So yeah, when I say on TikTok, I just did a video. I did just do a video on TikTok. How do I keep my 2-year-old from hitting at daycare? You can't do anything about that because they're in the moment. It's right here, right now. You cannot prevent your 2-year-old from hitting out in daycare at home. Like what I mean, there's not much you can do other than not putting up with it at home. They will eventually learn not to do it at home. Then hopefully that'll spread to daycare. But yeah, the daycare workers are usually used to that. Although if it's a real problem, they will have to expel some kids because they can't have other kids getting hurt. Imagine if you sent your kids to school and they were coming home scratched up and bleeding every day because they had a really violent kid in the class. So it can be a problem, but generally daycares are pretty good at dealing with it. But there's nothing you can do at home. You can't talk to them. They're not about words. And because they're in the moment. When they're at daycare, they're not going to stop and go, earlier, Mother and I were discussing my big feelings and big emotions. A 2-year-old does not do that. So. Okay, my child is 4 and he's always hitting me in the store, wherever, before he won't go in front of others. Before he won't in front of a. Oh, so he's hitting you all the time now, but he wouldn't do it in front of others? Yeah, he's totally in control. He knows it. He has no respect for you. Work on your leadership skills. That would never happen. It just would never happen. When you're a leader, it does not happen. Check out my boot camp course. That'll teach you how to set yourself up as a leader, and he will respect you. He just doesn't respect you. That's all. Remember, we're never fixing kids. He's following your lead or your lack of it. That's all he's doing. He would never do that. They don't hit leaders. They just don't. That's why I teach leadership. A leader is like a really good sports coach. You're fun. You love kids. You love being around them. You know how to organize things. You know how to discipline. If they cheat in the game, they sit on the bench for a while. But you know how to bring out the best in them. So yeah, work on your leadership skills. Remember, I teach parenting. I don't teach 4-year-olding. I don't teach teenagering or toddlering. I teach parenting. So yeah, leaders do not get hit by kids. They just don't. What do you do when a teenager tries to run away? That's not a quick TikTok answer. That is, you have to hire me for coaching. What's your relationship like? Have they ever run away before? How old are they? What are they running to? What are they running away from? Blah, blah, blah. I'd have to assess the whole situation. Then we'd have to move forward. That's not a TikTok answer. Well, you said, how do you stop a Tyler? I'm assuming you mean toddler from crying in the store when she wants something, toys or things. Well, generally they've been trained to do that because sometimes you'll give them toys in the store, right? And other times you won't. That's inconsistency. It's like they don't understand that. So that's why my kids just didn't ever cry for toys in the store because they knew they were never going to get any. If they did get a toy, it never was given to them in the store. They were never allowed to play with toys in stores either. Here, you can play with it for a while, and then I'm going to take it away. So yeah, you've taught them to do that. So you must sometimes give in. So they don't understand why. If you give in sometimes, why don't you always? Where's your consistency, Mom? They don't understand that. Why can I have it sometimes but not others? Or why can I have it for 2 minutes and then it's ripped out of my hands? It's all this confusion, this inconsistency, this lack of clarity, lack of leadership. It's like they just don't get that. 2 tantrums today, only 2. Some people get 20. So yeah, check out my toddler tantrum course. It's a good one. I really like that course. My most popular course is it's the potty training one. Yeah, the toddler one. I think the tantrum one. I think is the second favorite one, the most popular one. It's a good one. So check that out. Bum, bum, bum. Seeing you get lots of backlash. Oh, that's good. It means I'm shaking things up. If you've been watching me for a while, you know how much I love that. Yeah, it means I'm shaking things up. And that's good. That's good. I love it. Do you think diet plays in tantrums? I am not a nutritionist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I couldn't possibly comment on that. I must say, I have found the most significant thing to help minimize tantrums in duration, frequency, and intensity is leadership. Ignoring a tantrum, getting good at it, knowing how to ignore it properly is the best thing I've found to help. Because remember, I worked with hundreds of kids. I wasn't in control of their diet, but I knew how to be a good leader. I always managed to get respect, no matter what they were eating. If they had ADHD, WXYZ, I always managed to get respect. Troubled teenagers, whatever, it didn't matter. I managed to get respect because I know how to lead. So work on what you know. You know you can change you. You know you can learn how to lead. And then, then check out all the other stuff that might be contributing factors. And you can't end tantrums. The only way to stop a tantrum is to give them exactly what they want, when they want, and how they want it. Do you really want to do that? You're setting yourself up for hell down the road. So it's the only way to actually stop it. And even then, once they get going, they can't necessarily stop it, even if you give them what they're screaming for. I was just saying yesterday, that comment, lots of backlash. It always amazes me that people will say something nasty to me on here. I don't read I don't read that stuff usually, but they'll say something nasty. And I always think, how important do you think your opinion is of me? If someone who says something nasty, how important do you think that opinion is to me? Like, how do you think I look at you? Like, how much respect do you think I'm going to give you if you say something snotty? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not earning any respect from me. Why would I care what you think? So I've been really lucky my whole life. I've never been bullied because I'm very much like this. Like, because anyone who lashes out and is mean, there's something wrong with them. Like they must feel awful to be mean. It must feel horrible to be mean. Like, I just think that you must feel sick in your stomach to be snotty and nasty to people. So yeah, that's on you. That's like, here's a mirror. Take a look at yourself. It has nothing to do with me. So yeah. Like someone said one day, I was laughing with my daughter over this, and they said, you should just get off TikTok. You're stupid or awful. And I went, oh, as if I'm going to go, okay. Like, how the self-entitled, it's hilarious. Anyway. Okay. Yeah. Don't worry about what other people think. I'm very sensitive to people that I respect and care about. If they say something, I can be hurt very easily, but just by idiots online saying snotty stuff, why would I give a crap? It makes no sense whatsoever. I would never give a person like that any power over me. And that's what I teach children too, but online bullying is don't give these idiots power over you. Because that's what they are. So yeah, it's on them, Okay. Well, you already kind of know you wouldn't have asked it this way if you didn't know it's probably not a good thing to do. Do you think putting your child in the room for a timeout is helpful with toys in there? So in other words, here, go in the playroom and play. That's your timeout. I hate timeout. So I'm just going to address that. I can't stand timeout. I want my kids right in front of me when I'm disciplining them. I want kids right there. I want them to see me disciplining them and taking care of business. I don't want to send them away. I think it's mean. It's humiliating. Imagine if you made a mistake at work and your boss said, go sit in a corner. You're not even worth talking to. Go sit over there. You're 63 years old. Sit there for 63 minutes. Think about what you did. Then we're going to talk about it after you're done. I hate timeout. I can't stand it. Well, thanks for your support, Stacey. I appreciate that. Uh, how do you stop two toddlers, 4 and 2? Well, there's only one toddler there. A 3 and 4-year-old is a preschooler. So a 2 and a 4-year-old fighting all the time. Do I have a video coming up on that? I've got a bunch of videos lined up. How old were they? 2 and a 3-year-old constantly fighting. Yeah, it's a little bit different. No, it's about the same. Anyway, what I would do is the older one, watch it. If the older one's hitting the younger one, then the younger one gets to play with their favorite toy for whatever. Watch them very carefully. Who's the antagonist? Often they'll be hired by a family, and they'll say, "Oh, that older one's always hitting the younger one." And then I'll say, "Watch next time before it happens. Keep an eye out." Sure enough, the younger one's like this. The parents don't see it. So be very careful. See who's doing it, and then that kind of helps to progress. Is it the 2-year-old? But usually the 4-year-old should be a lot more mature than the 2-year-old. Also, 4-year-olds deserve to have their own toys. They deserve to have their own space, their own stuff that they don't have to share with the 2-year-old. So say if you really want to play with this special toy, you can go in your room or in here in our bedroom. You can only play with it there. They'll usually get very bored and lonely when they have to go in a room all by themselves and play with their favorite toy all by themselves. So they usually learn how to share. There's a million different ways around that one, by the way. Like when I give advice, I've probably got lots of different things I could say. Someone was saying one day, they said, well, that's not the way you said to do it the other day. And I go, well, they both work. Like I have a lot of different methods. And when I'm coaching, often families or people will hire me and then they'll recommend me to a family member or friend and they'll compare notes. And they're often different. And they'll say, but when I'm coaching, I get to know people. So I tell them different things, right? That's what coaching is all about. It's personal. So I get to know their strengths and weaknesses and I give them different pieces of advice. Which brings up a really good point. If you're struggling with your kids and you want to know how to get control of yourself or be a better parent, don't pick and choose different bits of advice from different people. It doesn't work that way. It's like a diet. You got to pick a path and go with it. Like all diets will probably work, but you don't pick and choose what you like from each one and expect to get any results at all, right? Parenting's like that. My whole method all goes together. If you were to throw time out into my method, I teach giving respect to get it. I hate time out. I think it's very mean. So I would never do it. So if you threw time out into my methods and then it just wouldn't work. It's a whole methodology. It's a whole path you have to sort of follow. Anyway, so yeah, but you can't pick and choose different methods. They can't mix. Some of them probably could if they were similar styles, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff out there that I would never do. And I know parents will hire me and they say, I really like this. I was doing this, but then I also like doing that. And I think, well, that's why nothing's working because they don't mix. Okay, I get this all the time. What advice do you have to a parent trying to be calm when the parent gets overwhelmed? So in other words, how do you keep your calm? I get this every day. Someone asks me about this. And I can't really answer that. That's sort of like going to a diet center and saying, I want to lose weight, but how do I not be hungry? It is that is your challenge. You're going to be hungry when you're losing weight, and you're going to be losing it when you're learning how to be a leader. The thing is, you have to be accountable for your kids. That's why your rule is always no yelling. If you're a yeller, you put down no yelling on the behavior board. And then every time you yell, you have to do something nice for the kids. So you see, then they start to feel respected, then they don't act out as much, and then you don't have to yell as much. Just have faith that it does work in the long run. It's like dieting. It'll work in the long run, but it is going to be difficult. It's a difficult process. It's worth it, though. It's short-term pain for long-term gain. It's worth it. And it usually gets worse before it gets better. Because when the kids realize you're trying to take control when they've been in control, they're going to fight back harder, usually. usually, especially when they get older, they will. And then about the third week, things start to often, oh God, some of the clients just tell me the most beautiful stories. They say, week 3, they came up to me and just gave me a big hug and said, you're such a good mommy. Good. You're doing such a good job. Like just because they're just exercising their leadership, and the kids start to appreciate it. It all starts to fall in place. Believe in the process. It just works. It just does. I'm a yeller, unfortunately. I wish I wasn't. It's very rare that I get clients who don't yell. It's so rare that, and these are highly successful people. A lot of my clients are running big corporations. A lot are teachers, principals, child psychologists. They all yell. It's very rare that I'll get a one parent who doesn't yell, or 2 parents that don't yell. It's almost like I don't know what to do. I'll say, okay, do you yell? And I'm ready to write it down on the behavior board for them, no yelling. They say, no, we don't yell. And I'm like, like I don't even know what to do with them. It's that common. The reason why people yell is it does work in the short term. It's instinctive to yell because you lose it, right? Because you don't know what else to do. It's only something you do because you don't know what else to do. I teach you what else to do. So it's not like I expect you to stop yelling right away. Actually, I hope you do yell, because then you get to have a consequence, right? Because you're on that behavior board. So if you do feel a yell coming on, you have to let it fly. Don't force it. Don't think, oh, it's 5 o'clock, time to yell. But if you feel one coming on, let it fly if you've got no yelling on that behavior board, because you want the kids love that. They go, oh, you yelled. Okay, hide and seek for 10 minutes. So they love that. So, but yeah, it starts to get easier. But that's your challenge. If you want to change and become a leader, it's hard work, but it's worth it. It's really hard getting respect. It's hard work. But once you've got it, maintaining it's a piece of cake. I always say, like, I love cleaning. But I always say I never clean a dirty house. I maintain a clean one. So it's kind of like that. I never got respect with kids. I just maintained it because I knew I got it really easily. So then maintenance was easy. So it's like that kid that I had that I told you about. Was it on here or on Instagram? I can't remember. And he challenged me and he says, if you don't give me that right now, I'm going to have a fit. And I looked at him and I said, bring it on. And he looked at me like that. He never had a fit. That's all the work I had to put into that kid. He was good as gold with me after that. It's a lot of body language and tone of voice too. He knew I wasn't afraid of him. But yeah, you gotta work for that. You gotta learn that. It's a skill. You gotta learn it. Anyone can learn this. Do you think spoiling kids makes them entitled? Do you think it does? I think you can answer that. Gonna have to print your picture and put it next to no yelling on the behavior board. But yeah, you do put down no yelling on there, but it doesn't mean that you don't yell. If you put no yelling as your rule, you have to yell. You have to show them how that behavior board works. You have to let it fly, because then you get to do the consequence. And it's something the kids like. It's fun for them. So they love it when you yell. Once they get that behavior board up, they're like waiting for a yell. So you see, you can have fun with it. It's supposed to be, some of it's fun, some of it's not so fun, but your consequence is supposed to be fun. Is it okay to yell at times? No. When you're a leader, you never yell. My parents never yelled at me, not once, not ever. I never yelled. No. It's not okay for a leader to yell. But while you're learning how to be a leader, you're probably going to yell. The thing is, you don't need to yell when you're a leader. You know what else to do. Like if I was disciplining kids, I whisper. My son used to say, if my mom ever whispers, run. That's when I'm disciplining. This is how I talk. If I'm disciplining a kid, not my kids, they were easy. But anyway, if I was looking after a kid, I would say something like this. I didn't like that. I'll tell you what we're going to do. You're going to help me do this and that and that. Okay, do you understand? That's how I discipline. It's very calm, very calm. Oh, how to deal with stepkids? That's coaching. I don't know your situation, how long you've been in their life. What is your role with them? Is there another parent another mom around? That's coaching. It's too many factors in that. So if you want my help, look in the link above and you can hire me. Okay. My 3-year-old won't go to the bathroom consistently. I've tried everything and don't know what to do. Okay, that's 3 years old. So it's hard. Okay, I do have a potty training course, which might, if they're not consistent, it might work for you. But they already kind of know that you don't know what you're doing with that. So it's harder. And especially at 3, it's even harder. You might want to still check out that course and might want to give it a go. A 3-year-old. Yeah. I don't always say that, but at 3, If they're not going consistently, if they just won't poop, the course probably wouldn't be for you. But if it's everything, then yeah, give it a go. Check it out. It's just one of my mini toddler courses out there. 15-month-old sensitive, he cries for everything. How can I help him? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the situation is when you say cries for everything. So I don't know what's going on there. Are you meeting his needs and managing their wants? Do you play with him a lot? Does he feel safe? Are you meeting his needs and managing his wants? So if he's crying for everything, I'm wondering why a 15-month-old be crying so much. Do you play with him a lot? Does he feel safe, secure? I don't know. I'd have to assess that. If you want my help, you'd have to hire me for that. I have to assess that one. I don't know why a 15-month-old would cry all the time. Okay, you got a 3-year-old roughhousing. So what I would do, they're 3 years old, they can go on that behavior board, check it out, it's free above. And by the way, that behavior board doesn't arrive for about 5 or 10 minutes in your inbox. So wait it out. Do you know how many emails I get every single day? I didn't get the behavior board. No, I never answer any of them because then I'll often get emails. Oh, it came. Like it takes a few minutes. It's like in a third party where it's being delivered from. That's why it takes a few minutes. Didn't used to, but I've got it somewhere else now. Anyway, check out the behavior board. What the heck was I talking about? Oh yeah, and I would say with the rough housing, 3 years old, they can go on the behavior board. Their rule is no hurting other people. So they will eventually learn where the balance is. And then when they do, there's a consequence. If they hurt someone and roughhouse too much, that maybe that other kid gets to play with their favorite toy for a half hour or something. Yeah. I have the behavior board. Hitting is on it now, but hitting is turned into wrestling. LOL. Yeah. Well, you know what? I actually, I was never one to wrestle with my kids, or neither was their dad. I didn't encourage wrestling because I know it can actually turn into roughhousing. And I just have worked with so many kids that were rough and they were wrestled with as little kids. So they don't know where the line is. So if they think that physical aggression, and it is a form of physical aggression, it's just controlled when it's wrestling, but they don't understand control. So yeah, I don't actually encourage wrestling with children, but I often have clients who the dad loves to wrestle with his kids. And I say, okay, you know, that we'll do that then. If it works for them and it's never been a problem, then go with it. But it can be a problem. But sometimes I've had dads, their rule is they can't have the phone at the dinner table sometimes. And if they do, then they have to wrestle with their kids for 10 minutes and the kids love it. So then we do that. We do use it. But that's only when wrestling isn't an issue. Oh, can you give an example of what fun consequence would be for you yelling? Yeah. So if you yell, your consequence is if you have little kids, you have to play hide and seek for 10 minutes with them. Or you can, when they get older, you have to ask them. If you yell, the teenager might say, you can't talk all night long, but you can write out in longhand what you want. So you're not allowed to speak all night. That would have killed me. I would have negotiated my way out of that one. I would have given them anything to get out of that one. I couldn't not talk all night. So yeah, have fun with it. Ask their advice as they get older. But when they're little, just say, what fun thing do you want us to do? If we yell, we make a mistake, we break the rule, what do you want our punishment to be or our consequence? To ask them. They might want to, go to the park and, whatever. Ask them something fun for them that they love to do that you hardly ever do with them and would be a really special treat. That's where I always say you got to give respect to get it. You can't just expect to get it. I think that's the old-fashioned authority style parenting. I don't do that. I'm a leader. You got to show them how it's done. You lead by leaders lead by example. So they're not listening to you. They're watching you. So if you're accountable for what you do, then they're going to be more accountable. The behavior board starts at the age of 3. That's when they can stop and think before they act, and that's when they can understand consequences. Under that, they're like right in the moment, you have to do something. It has to be an action. They're not about words, they're about actions. And then by 3, they can understand the behavior board. It's very visual. They can't read at 3 years old, but put pictures up there, explain it all. It explains it in the behavior board thing. I work from home. Toddler wants to play all day. How to teach patience. You can't do that. They don't understand work. So I would have to set up a system for you, have barriers in the house or something. That's an unfair expectation. You can't say, how do you teach patience to a toddler? That's an unrealistic expectation. It's unfair. Toddlers don't have patience. Some of them do, but I mean, how do you handle being overstimulated about okay, so how do you handle, when you lose it? That is your biggest that's your challenge. Just know that if you get good at this, take about 3 weeks to commit to this stuff and check out the boot camp course. That's 5 weeks. Teaches you how to be a leader. Take Look at it this way. Say it's going to be hell, but in 3 weeks it'll start to pay off. It's like dieting. It's hell, but it starts to pay off. So you have to think about it this way. I'm going to invest in swallowing my screams or my yells or whatever you want to do, whatever you're going through, you have to say it's going to be worth it, but it's going to be really difficult. You're asking so much of your children, and yet parents tend to almost ask less of themselves. It's quite interesting, actually. You're so demanding of your kids, but then you yell and do, it's like you just don't quite get it. Like I really struggle with this in coaching sometimes, especially with teenagers. They'll say, yeah, but what do they do to me? And I'm like, you got to take the high road. You got to put in more than you expect to get back. Okay. Your kids are going to catch on eventually, but you just have to take the high road. This is what leadership's all about. It's hard. You have to be willing to go through the hard stuff for your children's sake. But yeah, it's hard work. I never said it was easy. Maintaining it's easy. Getting it's hard. The first 3 weeks, especially 3 to 6 weeks, is tricky. Yeah. How do I explain to 15-year-old daughter she's being manipulative? Why do you need to tell her that? That's awful. No, 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 no. How do I explain to 15-year-old daughter she's manipulative? No. Why would you do that? I worked with delinquent teenagers. Do you think I ever explained to them that they were little jerks? Why would you do that? No. She's manipulating you for a reason. Work on yourself, work on your leadership skills, work on your connection with her. That's coaching. You'd have to hire me for that. You do not explain to your teenager what's rotten about her. No. Work on yourself, and that would not happen. Yeah. I think of all the kids I've worked with, all the teenagers I've worked with, who were jerks a lot of the time. Do you think I ever wasted any time trying to explain that they were a jerk? Nope. I worked on my leadership skills. I worked on connecting with them. And then they would have been embarrassed to be rude to me because they liked me. They liked themselves when they were with me. So she's reflecting your parenting. If she's manipulating you, work on yourself. I'm sure you've left by now, and that's okay. But yeah, you don't need to explain. You don't need to point out her flaws. Maybe she should be pointing out yours. Maybe she would, if you tried to explain, by the way, you can be quite manipulative, and she'd turn right around and attack you. Rightly so. Like I would. So yeah, work on yourself. That is coaching. You'll never hire me after that, and that's okay. I can take it. I gotta says it like it, thinking it. I can't not say it. Anyway, I gotta go. Thanks so much for joining me. My regularly scheduled live is tomorrow night. I've changed them. They're both the same time now. Tuesday and Thursday nights Pacific time. That's Vancouver, California time. 5 o'clock Instagram, 5:30 TikTok, and the YouTube is the whole hour. Anyway, I got to get going. Thanks so much for joining me. Check the link above for my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my boot camp course, 3 to 12 years old, and coaching is at the very top. That's that one-on-one Zoom. It's about 1 hour a week. Anyway, thanks so much, and we'll talk again soon. Bye now.